Okay, this is a quick video lecture with the introduction to Anglo-Saxon poetry. We're going to focus on device and language as we start, after we got kind of a background of what was going on in the time period. Now I'm going to put together some literary device, and then we're going to practice using literary device before we read literary device. Too much literary device, but okay. All right. Here we go. These are the standards I want to talk about just because academic language is extremely important. We're talking about the author's specific choice of words. I want you to understand that in every aspect of writing, especially literature or media, that an author's choice has significance. So they all do it for a reason. None of it is accidental when you write. Okay. Also, we're going to talk about the impact of words and the feelings that they create. So that's kind of the goal of this week, this lesson, the beginning of this language and the impact that it can have on writing as it reflects a time period. Okay, all of this stuff is in the PowerPoint that is attached, but I think it's important that I explain it, but it's there for your reference. Okay, first, we have, okay. So we have the delivery, which is from in the time period. It's referred to as a scop or a shope. That kind of it's the word. It has two pronunciations if you want to look it up. But this was a person that would recite the poetry because they didn't have a lot of entertainment back then. So this was their entertainment by listening to somebody. They would present in what was called a mead hall or a big area for people. So it was kind of like us going to the movies or a concert or something like that. And they would recite these long stories that had some sort of feel to them with language, so they were interesting to listen to. In presentation, it had to be interesting, just like songs have to be catchy, or we don't watch them or listen to them. So one aspect is sound. These type of long poetry things from the Anglo time period had rhythm, like a beat, but had no rhyme. So they weren't worried about rhyming like a Dr. Seuss book. It didn't feel like that, but it did have a rhythm or a beat. Next, alliteration is used significantly because we need to listen to it. So, like things that are catchy, a lot of times are alliterated or they're tongue twisters. This is a review, but I just want you to know the impact. My son's name is Sid Sonnenberg, so I alliterated his name. Other families, sometimes entire families, have alliteration. A lot of times characters, cartoon characters, will be alliterated because it's catchy. If you pay attention to the music that you listen to, a lot of times they have moments of alliteration because it is appealing to as a sound device. So we have lots of rhythm or a beat and lots of alliteration, which is the same thing we have now in music. Okay. Over here, we get to two terms you might not know. So if you were bored over here, you will not be bored here. We have a caesura. That's the word at the top. It's in the PowerPoint if you forget it. This caesura is a pause, literally a breath or a moment. A lot of times they are indicated with a comma in a line. So we have these long poetic rhythms, and then they're broken up right here with a caesura, which is a break. So it forces you to kind of have this rhythm, and then you pause, and then you continue. It is natural to speaking or like a breath, but it is inserted into these lines. A caesura, that's the name of them, and they use them a lot. A kenning. A kenning, another awkward word that you might not have known. A kenning is this strange metaphorical phrase. So it's a metaphorical phrase that is, I use the word strange, although it should be referred to as a circumlocution, which means just kind of beating around the bush is the phrase. Circumlocution is when you kind of say it in a roundabout way. So that's why I call it beating around the bush. An example, sometimes it's like a two-word phrase, sometimes they'll have a preposition in there, but either way, it's where you really have to listen and make that inference that we talked about yesterday to understand what they meant by that language. A whale road is also known as an ocean, where the whales go. Okay. Life, liquid, could be a kenning or a roundabout way of referring to blood. So we will get used to identifying these as we read, especially in the epic that we read, but kennings had a place. So we have sound devices over here with some rhythm and some alliteration. And then we have a caesura also that would provide a breath. Then we have a kenning as a form of metaphorical language. I just wanted to show you this, and I'm almost done. I have to stand up and teach because I've been sitting all day, so I want to teach to you. Okay. All of these things this way have to do with language elements, whether it is figurative language, a sound device, the way something is represented. All of these things back here that I just talked about create some sort of mood. Like I said, if you think about a song that you listen to, the way it's said, what it said, the words that are said, the feel that it has, the beat that it has can create some sort of mood. Also, all of those things usually will reflect a time period that it came from. So when we talk about the Anglo period and all the struggles that they have, sometimes it makes sense because we know what was going on in that time period. Right here, I'm going to refer to you. I know you read some notes yesterday and learned about the bubonic plague or the Black Death. You learned about the significance of the church during that time period, but also learned that there was a lot of warring kingdoms going on. There was not one united feel, so that can have impact. And there's a lot of uncertainty because we had a lot of people moving in and pushing out and assimilating and settling because there wasn't one united feel. So the themes that can come out of that time period are sorrow, fear, bravery, acceptance, because this time period had a lot of challenges, as do we all. And every time period, seeing connections between those is what makes you a really smart reader and a really smart thinker. But we're going to start here. So, our goal or our assignment for today is we're going to use some language to create a picture or a visual of or a feel of our world today. So we're going to try to use some alliteration. We are going to try to use some caesuras, which means just putting a comma in the middle of a line to force you to break. This will become more clear when we start reading the actual language that used it, but it's fun to be like, oh, I'm going to put a caesura here because I know what that means and I can. And also a kenning to try to think of a way to refer to something in a two-word phrase. Also, imagery, any imagery or figurative language or any type of language device is welcome. So our goal is to write a short section or maybe 10 lines or so that represent the world around us. So it is contingent on the poet or you or the writer because there's lots of things going on and what you present is just a product of our historical time period. Okay, so if you want to go at this by yourself, then you may sit and write and try to play around with language to use some or all of these to create some sort of depiction of the world that we live in today. And that's, I'm just giving you a broad topic. You will need to submit your assignment and I will be grading it on like, okay, I see alliteration, or I see some imagery, or I see your use of kennings, or I see some historical context that we live in because that's what they did when they wrote this. Okay, if you want to go at this by yourself, you may play around with it and submit what you wrote at the end of the hour. If you want to jump into the classroom and work with someone or throw phrases or ideas around to try to collaborate a little bit, that's cool. If you want to get on the Google Classroom and listen to what other people say, it might not be what you would write, but at least it would give you some ideas. It's up to you. So today is kind of like your choice day. If you want to work by yourself and submit, go ahead. If you want to get on the chat and just listen to try to help you, good. If you want to get on the chat to kind of work together, good. Or if you have a question, I will be there. So good luck. Have fun with language. Think about every word that you use because it's an important part of presentation. Remember, all the way at the beginning, I said all the way at the beginning, I said every word that you write is specific. It's a choice. It's because you want it to carry a certain weight, and that every word has a goal when you write. So if you feel like you're lackadaisically describing the world around you, you're probably just randomly talking on paper and not really creating what it is to create what these poets did. Okay, enjoy the practice. I will see you on the other side. I'll be wearing a different outfit because it will be a different day, but I'll be there either way. Okay, good luck. Have fun.